There you go. You clicked OK?
Yeah.
Fabulous. Okay, everybody, welcome to Hear the Tree Fall. I'm Noon, and I'm joined today by Fraser, as you can see.
Hello.
Fraser is one of the Hear the Tree Fall group and brings insightful musings to the group, I would say. I think that's about right.
Yeah.
And he also does quite a lot in shadow work, and he's expanding his knowledge in divination, and reading auguries as well, which is really good. So first things first, there's a like and a dislike button beneath here on YouTube if you're watching this on YouTube, and a subscribe button. We're not bothered about the like and the dislike. You find us if you need to. It's perfect timing. If you like us, that's great. If you don't, that's great too. You don't have to click either of them. What I would suggest is click the subscribe button, because that means you stay up to date with any videos that we come up with in the future. And sometimes they're audios that we've done and we put them together, and you've just got nice images. You can sit back and relax and listen to it. So thanks very much for coming and asking me the question this morning, Fraser.
Well, thank you for your time again.
It was an early morning call, this one.
It was, yes.
Just for anybody who doesn't know, I normally don't do anything before 10 o'clock, but there's quite a bit that I get done before that 10 o'clock sort of hits. So I normally have at least a few hours to kind of come round and do a few audios and catch up. But Fraser caught me this morning. He caught me just right. So it must have been.
Some of us don't have that luxury, you know. So.
This is it. So what was your question this morning, Fraser?
It was basically, I've got myself a new Oracle deck, and obviously that's new to me. Mm-hmm. So it was just to get a kind of basic understanding of the process of how to shuffle and how to, you obviously get different spreads and stuff like that. I'm not too familiar with this. So just to see the basics and how to go about starting to deal the cards, read the cards, and what you can take from whatever cards you've picked.
So yours is an Oracle deck, isn't it?
It is.
So with Oracle decks, it's a little bit different to normal tarot decks. Tarot decks tend to follow a set precept. So they have suits, yeah, and they have major arcana, minor arcana. Oracle cards don't necessarily follow that. And the reason is you look at the word magic that's behind it, oracular. So it's ocular, which is to see, and Ra being light.
Yeah. So
it's to see in the light. So it's be able to see in the future normally. But it also can be to see in the past, because if you're reading for somebody else, you don't know what they've gone through in the past.
Yeah.
And Oracle cards can actually look backwards as well as look forwards. It just depends how you read them. For anybody who's watching this, I'm going to be working with this deck, which is, I don't know whether you can actually read it or not, the Life Purpose Oracle cards from Doreen Virtue. And most decks will come with a little book. So you'll have a little book that goes with it. Yeah. They're handy, but they're not necessarily that they tell you everything. And this is the difference between a technical reading, so somebody who's learnt from the book and sticks to that rigidly, and somebody who does it by intuition.
Yeah, so, see, that's where I want to get away from the this is what the book says type of thing.
Yeah.
I want to more kind of an intuitive look at it, you know.
Yeah. So the easiest draw, what they call a draw, is one card. So you literally just, you're looking at your deck, and you can either just pick one out the middle, or you can fan them out and then pick one, or whichever way you want to do it.
Yeah.
And then you just read that one card. And that could be a day-to-day thing if you want to do it. I know some people who read a card every single day. I know some people who have it like on certain days, so like the first of the month, where they'll just read it. But you were opening up your deck before we started, weren't you?
Yeah.
So the first thing is to cleanse your deck, because it's been manufactured. And how you cleanse your deck is there's a number of different ways of doing it. The most common one is using sage and smudging them. So you know how to do that. It's like put your smoke over the top, or them over the top of your smoke, and you can hold each card up in the smoke, to actually cleanse it. Another one is to actually ring a bell over the top of them. So and the best ones are the higher pitched bells, like fairy bells.
Yeah,
that's that sound. They're really good to use over it. Other people put a red ribbon around them, because that moves the energy, because that's what you're trying to do, is move energy. So anything that isn't going to serve you leaves that deck of cards.
Yeah.
Another way of doing it is putting it over a chalice of water in the windowsill, so they get charged up by sun and by moon. So try not to do it when it's coming up to new moon, because you're getting less and less of the moon. You try to do it when it's coming to full moon. Yeah. And that helps on that score. The other one is to take every single card and read them, one by one. So you get used to them. So you know what they're like, and you get used to the feel of the card, because although they're all like that shape, that size, they all have a different feel to them, and you get to know your own cards, you know, in whichever way that might be. When it comes to shuffling them, there's really no rule of thumb with it. I got taught years ago, don't do, you know, like split the deck and then do the two together.
Yeah.
I actually like doing that. So I do have a tendency of doing that one. But you can do a normal sort of like casino shuffle, you know, that one, you know.
Yeah.
But I know an awful lot of women struggle with that because the cards are quite big and their hands are small. Yeah. So for men, it's not so much of an issue. But for women,
it's down to personal choice with that, I'm assuming.
It is. One of the quickest ways if somebody's got small hands is to do, you know, draw out, you know, whenever you're serving them, you put 7 out. So you put 7 down and then you just keep going over those 7 with the next ones down. And then you pick them up in a different order. And then that'll give you a different order anyway. Predominantly, I tend to use, I know some people just split the deck in 2, but I tend to split it into 3 and then pick one of them and then work off that one.
Yeah.
The whole point is that your way of being, how you are, actually goes into the cards. That's why after every reading, if somebody else has touched your cards, you cleanse them because you don't want that energy to be left on them. You want it to be a clean deck of cards. Or if you're using them all the time and you've had a particularly crap day and you're going to read your cards, you might find they go a bit awry the following day.
Yeah.
So another one to sort of say that. And talk to your cards as well, because remember, they're made of paper. So they come from the trees.
Yeah.
You know, so the trees are actually helping you to look into the, well, in oracle cards, look into the future, hopefully. And that's the easiest way of going about it. So does that all make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, so let's go off the assumption that you have cleansed your cards and charged them. Yeah. And you've got to know them one by one. Oh, that's another one. I've got a friend, Zoe, if she's watching. Hi, Zoe. She, not something I would advise, but she takes furniture polish. Right. With her old cards, you know, when they're getting a bit old, and she does them with furniture polish so that they'll smoothly, you know, they'll glide against each other again. So she's got decks that are decades old, you know, and used really frequently. But she sits there with the polishing cloth and polishes them all off. A bit too much like hard work for me.
It's a bit.
Yeah. So with your little book and everything, because if we have a look at, do you want to tell everybody what oracle deck you've got?
It's the Unnamed Oracle deck, and it's from Witchwood Oracle. I don't know whether you can, oh, that was a better camera angle there. So that's basically the back side of the card. I'll try and, I don't know whether that camera is going to get too much of this.
We said this earlier when we were trying this out.
Is that right there? So you
being the illusionist there.
Yeah. So basically the theme right through is the skull, you know, based on the unnamed card from the tarot.
Yeah. Being death.
The artist has basically put these together based on that.
Very simple. There's a lot in those cards. I don't know how you feel about them because it's everybody's interpretation is up to them.
Yeah.
But like the ones that have got colour in them, like you'll see that colour straight away. Or if there's 2 colours in it, one will pop out at you. And that has a meaning as well.
Yeah.
So they're a pretty cool deck.
So that's the kind of, I was drawing, I've looked at a load, you know, and a little too light and airy for my kind of personality, I think. I was drawn more to these, so yeah.
Are you trying to say you got a dark personality there?
It's there.
Everybody does. Everybody's got a dark personality.
Check.
Yeah,
it's in check.
Yeah. Sometimes you've got to let it have a little bit of breathing. You have to air everything out every now and again.
Everybody's got to play.
Yeah, but the thing is, things like using divination, like oracle cards and things like that are in tune with that darker side, is a good way of airing it without it, you know, going haywire and, you know, causing chaos everywhere and sipping mayhem sort of thing. So yeah, that's a good way of doing it. So
well, for everybody that's listening anyway, that doesn't mean I'm crazy. You know, it just means I recognise there's a balance to be had.
No, nobody says you're crazy, Fraser. If they do, they can come and talk to me.
Not in my face, anyway.
And they might say it behind your back.
Oh, yeah.
So, right, okay. So have you shuffled your cards yet?
No. Would you like me to?
Yep, give them a quick shuffle.
Okay.
And the funny thing is, because we're doing this just now, you'll find that you'll actually be able to still read, even though you haven't cleansed them and charged them.
Yeah.
So, you know, you just have to kind of, sometimes you might get a little bit of an overlay where it's your ego mind is trying to pull you down one way.
Yeah.
That might come across as a little bit stronger. But the
static
intuition,
in there.
yeah, yeah. But the intuition is really that sort of like, it starts off for most people as a tiny voice.
Yeah.
And it's not actually necessarily a voice as such, it's a sense or a feeling. And that's the bit that we have to link into. And the more that we practice on that, the stronger it becomes.
Yeah.
And it's not that it takes you over, it's that you can then link into it or go into that flow really easily and quickly. So that's why I can do it really quick. You know, just like, yeah, okay. Somebody asked me a question, I sit back and one eye kind of goes, and then I go, yeah, it's you know, and you follow that energy signature through.
Yeah.
So, and basically anybody who has got a life spark in them can do it. You know, like I said, they can do it technically, but what you're looking at is the intuitive side of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So do you want to split your deck in half or in threes?
We'll go for 3.
Right, go for 3 then.
Okay.
And pick one of them.
Pick one pile.
Yep. And then put the
It
other.
wasn't an even split, so we'll go for the big one.
Doesn't matter. They really don't matter. Put the other two to one side. The one that you've got in your hand now, you just hold it up for us.
Oh, you don't want to see the cards, do you? Just want to see the back?
That's fine, yeah. So what you want to do is you can either take the top 3,
yeah,
or you can fan it out and pick 3 out of that one.
Okay.
Entirely up to you, whatever you feel like doing.
Right, it's 3.
Okay, so now you put the rest of the deck to one side.
Yeah.
So I'll do much the same. And I've already shuffled mine. And it's funny because this is a deck where there's 3 already missing from it, because I did the 3 draw yesterday.
Right.
I've left it on the table so that I come to read it, because I don't know what they are either.
Yeah.
You know, and I leave them that way until I come to do the audios for them. So I'm not playing with the full deck. Oh, what can I say? Right, okie doke. So the first card that you have drawn, you can lay them out. If I show you this way, you can lay them out like kind of like that way.
Yeah.
On your table. Or you can do them one above the other.
Yeah. You
know, so they can go that way. It's entirely up to you. If you're just doing one card, it'll obviously be just one card that'll be there.
I've got them side to side just now, just enough.
Yeah, so you kind of got them like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's absolutely fine. When you're doing a bigger draw, so something like the Celtic Cross or the Fan of Ages or anything like that, and some of you might not have heard of the Fan of Ages. The Fan of Ages came from the Seers, and it's not very much talked about, but the Fan of Ages is actually really interesting because you can pick out things in history and in the future and as to how it relates. But what you're going to remember is that we've been pre-programmed with our history. So what might come up in the cards can be totally different to what's actually happened. So, you know, or what they say has happened.
Yeah.
You know, so you have to kind of be careful, because we're now realizing that our history that's been told to us is a complete and utter lie. You know, an awful lot of it doesn't hold true. So, which is interesting, makes life very interesting.
It does indeed.
Well, if you don't know where you've come from, then you don't know where you are and you don't know where you're going. And that's kind of the limbo that they've kept everybody in.
Yeah.
So, and I'm sure that everybody knows who we're talking about when we say they. So, yeah.
They.
Yeah. So you start, if you've done a 3-card draw, you start with the first card. It can be, you can draw it right to left or left to right. It depends on you. What you find is if you are right-handed, you will read right to left. So you kind of read backwards. If you're left-handed, you'll read left to right. So that's your backwards, because everybody has a different dominance in the brain. And it's just how you interpret the world. That's all it is. Yeah. If you want to muck it about and play with it, go for that and see what happens. But it's really now down to you and how you link things together.
Yeah.
So do you want to turn over your first card?
Okay. Right. So you need to know what it is?
Well, that would be helpful.
Yeah, I thought that. Yeah. Right, it's the clover.
Right.
I'll show you in a minute, but I'll show you what I mean. The way these cards were put together, they've got what a meaning on one side of the card and a meaning, so they're reversible. So whatever way you draw it, if the clover's up that way, well, I'll show you the way it's drawn just now. So I've drawn it that way. If I call, come on. Come on, right.
It
It's
comes up
upside
really
down.
well when it's in front of you. Yeah,
Main of triangle, right.
it's upside down. Yeah,
It's upside down.
yeah, got it.
Right, so as I would read that just now, that would mean risk, going by what they're giving you on the guide at the side. Now, had it been the other way up, it would have read good fortune. So at the moment, it reads risk.
Right. So instead of going for the book, which is what most people would do, just close your eyes for a second. Okay. Now think of all the things that clover means to you for a start. You can say those out loud.
Well, the obvious one is the good luck. It's got an Irish connection.
So you're looking at the Irish connection, you're looking at Tara, you know, the Favori, the Tuatha De Danann, you know, all those things from history.
Yeah.
You know, there's a whole lot of that. You've also got the Irish people as well.
Yeah.
You know, always having a laugh. You know, that's the way we see them. They don't, but you know, they do tend
currently
to
not in the Republic, certainly.
No, definitely not at the minute. But they tend to be far more upbeat people. You know, so there's all that side of it. So it's actually not such a bad card to draw. Now, if you hold the card up in front of you and you just have a look at it and just let your eyes kind of go blurry with it and see if anything pops out at you, whether it's a sign, a symbol, a color, or even a feeling. Is there anything that pops up for you?
No obvious anyway.
Right, so it can be a part of the picture, or it can
what I could concentrate on was, I've just noticed that the clover's actually in a coffin shape, you know, but it's inversed, it's inverted.
Yeah, so
I'll show you, you can actually see that there. I didn't, come on.
When you put it sort of like towards in front of you, the other way.
If I go this way, I think it works a bit better.
You're such a magician, you really are.
I've made it disappear. There you go. Right.
Yeah, that's it. That's it.
See that there? So it's that coffin shape, which I hadn't really noticed to start with.
Yeah.
But the way I picked it, it was that way.
Yeah.
So it was inverted.
See the association, how that's inverted?
Yeah.
That also says to me mistletoe, because that's how mistletoe starts to look whenever it's growing.
Yeah.
Now, when you know the associations with mistletoe, it's something that the Druids, you know, would use the mistletoe to basically go on a trip, you know, a mental trip. So there's that, and with it being reversed, like you said, it being risk, you know, we're also looking at the card that you've drawn is actually your recent past. So it's like what's just happened.
Yeah.
Right? So, and you and I have had a conversation this morning already. So we'll get back to that in a second.
Yeah.
So that's some of the key points that you're kind of looking for in each card. So if you turn over the next card.
Yeah. Okay. That's the cup. Now, as I've turned it over just now, that could read carelessness. On the other side, if I'd drawn it the other way, it could be replenishment. If I can get that in, come on. Yeah.
There you go. Right, so that for me is quite telling about you.
Yeah.
Yeah, about where you are at the moment. So the moment is this moment is the present, which is pre-sent. You've already sent this to yourself.
Yeah.
So this is your present, okay? Now the color that's in that cup, is that quite a dark sort of like red, or is it like a wine color?
Yeah, it's a kind of, it's not quite claret, but it's not far off.
Right, just bear with me. See, after that quick interlude by my lovely husband.
I'm going to laugh now.
It's just, it doesn't matter how many times I tell him I'm recording, he comes down and it's like, I'm sure he wants to be on camera. That's what it is.
Yeah, he's good.
But then whenever you say, do you want to come on camera? He goes, no. So yeah, but never mind. Right, so that sort of color, what color is it?
It's like just not quite claret. It's more a deeper red.
Right, okay. And what do you take from it?
well, since it's reading the carelessness thing, I would say alcohol was a big thing there. I would say.
That's one. Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
With it being inverted, it's like, well, kind of, I don't really see that. They're that way. It's like kind of pour it out, you know?
Yeah.
That's initially what I'm seeing, what I'm feeling.
But see how you're already linking the cards together?
Yeah.
That's kind of what you're going for, because that's your intuition that does that. It says, it goes, right, okay, how does this all work together? And it then looks at what's called quantum entanglement, because everything's entangled together. So there are many different stories in just those two cards, right? Because I know you were heading off somewhere.
That's right.
Right. And then you got stopped from going to that place, which is a very dear place to your heart.
Yeah.
And you initially didn't want to go. And then you went, oh, so just let's go, but there was something about it that you didn't want to go.
Yeah.
And your son became unwell, which stopped you from going.
Yeah.
So, and I said to you this morning, I said, that's your guide going, look, you really shouldn't be going there. Now, that can be that there would have been an accident or something else would have happened. You were going to meet your mum and your auntie there.
Yeah.
And it could be that you could have had a big argument, something like that. And they're going, your guides are going, look, you don't really need that at the moment. It's not something you need to go through. They will allow you to go through things that you have to go through. But
they have.
Yeah. Well, you've always got a choice, and you can actually go against them. And whenever you do, you find that it's even worse. And I mean, you've been through that as personal experience as well. Your self experience was particularly horrendous, if you can say. You didn't do things by halves, did you, Fraser?
No, not quite, no.
So it kind of follows in suit with that as well. So, but you see how you're already linking those cards together.
Yeah.
And you start seeing those different meanings to them. Okay, so let's go for the third one and see what the third one comes up with.
Okay. Now that is the Horseshoe, which, as it reads just now, change of fortune. Had it been the other way, it could mean luck.
Yeah.
So let's see if we can get this right. So
the change of fortune is that can be a change for the better. It can also be a change for the worse. So if you're looking at because this is future now you're looking at. So if you're looking at those two first cards, my thing would be is that you've got those two cards there that are kind of like you've avoided this. You all right, you didn't really place your attention there correctly in the first place, but you did eventually. Yeah. And those, that could have been not the best of outcomes. Whereas now, because you've done something different, it's a change of fortune. Now, where you are at the moment, and it's not necessarily to do with money or anything like that, it's to do with how you are in the world, and there will be things that you want to change. Yeah. Right? Everybody does. Nobody is perfectly happy. And, if they are, it's normally because they're closeted away and don't have to deal with anything else in the world, Yeah. But you're not. You're part of the world. You're part of what's going on and everything. So there's something that you want to change, and that's a change of fortune. And that's what's coming in now. So it's saying, okay, you did eventually pay attention, and place your attention on it. You did follow your intuition, which is great. And then this is kind of like, it's not a reward, but it's the next step on your path. Yeah. Is to change those fortunes. And that's because, and if we look at how you've struggled with the intuition part of things, but that's really coming to the fore. Because we had the conversation this morning already about learning how to listen to somebody when they're speaking fast. Yeah. So, and you would, if you'd asked 6 months, 12 months ago, would you have been able to do that?
Listen to the fact that, probably switched off a lot more. Yeah.
But now you're placing your attention on it and you realize that it's just words that are coming out. And those words
I don't hear the speed, it doesn't register as speed. I just hear what I'm hearing. Yeah. Whatever goes in, goes in.
So what do you take from those three cards being together? Right.
Okay, possibly.
Look at because I can see your facial expressions in this, which is really good. Zoom's really good for that. Yeah. Because of how the light hits people's faces, it highlights a lot of the stuff that's going on in the body language. Yeah. Right. And what's happening is your monkey mind is desperately trying to get control of you. and go, no, it can't possibly be that. Don't be ridiculous. You can't possibly read things.
Don't say that.
Yeah, that's kind of what it is, because it's there trying to keep you safe, and it's doing a good job. You know, we don't want to get rid of our egos, but we do want to let it slip for a little bit. So that first thing that comes through, no matter how bizarre it seems, go with it.
Yeah.
And that's how you start to practice with it. So what was the first thing that came through when you looked at all three cards together?
The thing was the risks of the first one with the clover thing, you know, reading risk. I have taken a load of risks regarding health and stuff like that, especially, and putting yourself in situations in the past. That's kind of gone, and that's leveled it, you know, that's behind. The cup one is still relevant, I would say, but not to the same degree. With the change of fortune thing, I think that's recognising that cup just now, and where it's going to be going, which is a good thing, I think.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. It is. And that is just one reading from those three cards. Because I've already given you another two, and there are far more that are in there. It's always difficult when you're reading for yourself, because you will have something in prominence, even in your subconscious, that you want to sort of like bring to the fore. To be able to sit back, and that again is just practice, to be able to sit back and say, do you know what, whatever comes up even if it's not something that I'd really thought about, that's okay, you know. So putting all three together, you've already got three different stories there, which are all relevant, all have meaning, and all have a good outcome, basically. Because
the way I see it, then but what I'll do, right, because I've no read these, because they give you the guide cards for each card. So I'll let you know what these say about how that's turned out there. It's just like a guide, a rough guide that they give you. Right. So the first one was a clover. So good fortune. This card shows a bright future and relationships on the mend. Reversed, it shows risk and uncertainty. Right. So that was the first one. The next one was the cup. Now the cup, I can't find. Come on.
It's always when you're doing an audio and video that you can't find the page.
It's got to happen. The cup. It was in the first card. I've skipped by it conveniently. The cup, replenishment, good cheer and good news to come. Reversed, it shows carelessness and secrets spilled. Right. The horseshoe. Is going to go in the first one again, isn't it? No, there it's there. A card of luck and contentment. Be wary of it reversed. It can show luck leaving or a change of fortune. That's what they're saying on their guide cards.
Yeah, but that's just it, their guide.
Yeah.
And you can have a completely different take on what's coming up. Your cup card, the other thing is, traditionally the cup is seen to do with emotions.
Yeah.
So whenever we have a cup overfloweth, means that we're abundant in how we feel the world.
Yeah.
You know, and
then the half full or half empty.
That's it. Yeah.
You know.
So, you know, the cup's got an awful lot of different things, because when you think about it, we're a vessel. You know, our body is a vessel. So what's it containing? And can we ever become overfull? Can we flow over?
Yeah.
You know, and so there's an awful lot to do with that card in the middle of it as well. It's not a bad draw for you, actually, to be honest.
Yeah.
You know,
it's pretty fair, to be honest.
I think some people will get a little bit frightened because of how the deck is, but this is the thing: there are numerous different types of decks.
Yeah.
And the oracular part of it, if you look at the oracles of Delphi and you know, different places around the world.
Yeah.
Okay, they might have been over vapors, you know, that would let them see further, but some people can do it naturally, you know. And are they always going to be right? Well, yeah, they are, but they might not be entirely right. And what you're going to remember is they're basing it. So if I'm reading for you, I know you're reading for yourself at the moment.
Yeah.
If I'm reading for you, I'm actually looking at all the potentials that you have, or most of the potentials that you have. And then I have to try and figure out which one is the most likely one for you to go down.
Yeah.
You know, dependent on the type of person that you are, or is there a big change going to come? Is it a big decision that you're going to make? All that sort of thing. So that's all a reader does. We're just translators. That's all.
It's not hard and fast. This is what the deal is.
No.
You've got to let, right, it makes you think. a bit more on a specific time that you've had, or
and you'll
gives you that
find,
wee
yeah,
kickstart to think on it.
as you go through your day, or like the next couple of weeks, you might sort of like all of a sudden you'll be, at work or whatever, and you go, something will happen, you go, oh, that was that card.
Yeah.
It was warning me, and you've then got hindsight as well. So hopefully you've put everything in place, which means it's far easier for you to have a smooth path.
Yeah.
I mean, I used to go regularly to somebody to have my cards read, and as soon as I walked in, she went, I'll make us a cup of tea and then I'll leave, right? And you'd go, right, okay. And she would sit down and she would literally leave, because it was other beings that would come into her to read my cards. She wouldn't have a clue when it was finished of what had been said, because it was just for me.
Yeah.
And that's fine, that's okay. It's a little bit worrying when you're like 17 and you're going to go and get that done, and it's like, say, I'm just going to leave now. It's like, right, okay then. Like, what's happening here? But she was absolutely right, and I'm really, really grateful to that lady, because I used to go to her for years.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like, how is my life going to be? What do I have to do, or anything like that? It was, why is this happening? That was the question I always had, was, why is this happening?
Yeah.
And I think that's why she got that through. But she knew she was kind of taking over. And she didn't mind, it was fine. She wouldn't do it for everybody, but she didn't mind, which is good. So you might find that you read for someone else and you don't remember what you read, because you then become the channeler and the translator, and you're putting it into a materialistic way here for the other person to understand. I mean,
so see, when I got those, they were predominantly just for self-use, just to try and get a look at something else.
It's always good to have
another way of looking
divinations.
at things.
Yeah. The realm of divinations is vast. I mean, you can divine from apple seeds on a drum skin to, all sorts of different things that you can create yourself.
It's about tuning into something that's the intention placed on it.
It is.
That's fair.
Yep, and it is attunement.
Yeah.
And that's the ment is the mind part of it.
Yeah.
So it's getting your mind to come into that same wavelength and say, right, okay, how does this work? Are we going to get it right every single time? Well, I've got to say that a lot of the times, even when somebody has been kind of proved wrong, they weren't actually wrong. The person that they read for made a different decision. So all they saw was a certain potential, and they said, you're most likely to go down that path.
Yeah. And
then the person themselves did a U-turn, because we always have choice. We've always got choice. And I always say that to anybody I read for is, look, it's your choice. You don't have to go down that path. That's the most likely outcome. It's like, if it says beware of the dog and you open up the gate, you're most likely to have a dog coming up to you. I'm not saying it's going to bite you, but you're going to have a dog coming up to you. But you can also choose not to open that gate, or you can choose to jump over the gate, or to ring the person that you wanted to go and see. There's always different ways of doing things. So these 3 cards are what I drew for you, because I was drawing for you.
All right.
So would you like to know what's reading in them?
Yeah, let's go.
Okie doke. So on the first card, and like I said, mine's the Life Purpose Oracle cards by Doreen Virtue. So the first card we've got is family. So let's see if you can see that one.
You're better at that than me.
Right, so family, I can give, do you want the meanings out of the book? And then the intuitive meanings as well?
Just give me whatever way you see.
Right, okay, so family, this is where I'm getting older, so I need my glasses half the time. So let's see if I can manage this. When you do that thing of like holding it up further away from you.
Yeah.
Right, so bear with me. Family is loving your friends and family is central to your life purpose. You drew this card to remind you that your life purpose begins at home. You serve an important function through your relationships with the members of your family. This includes the prayers you say on their behalf, the kindness you bestow, and the compassion you have for their actions. This card is also indicative of some forgiveness work that will benefit everyone concerned. You can start the process simply by holding the intention to clear the energy with your loved ones. You already know the people whom you need to forgive, as your first thoughts on this subject were your indicators. A life purpose doesn't necessarily mean a wage-paying career. It's a scope of experience in which you devote yourself to developing your ability to fully love. For most people, relationships with family are grist for the mill in terms of learning to rise above ego challenges. As you focus upon your loved one's inner beauty, you begin to see it within yourself and all of life. Today, say prayers for the health and happiness of every family member and notice your inner responses to these blessings. you'll experience newfound peace, which will benefit you in countless ways. Now, this is in the past. And I know, because I do, you and I have spoken, you have got certain family members that you have had issues with.
Yeah.
And one of the things that we said was, you can't forgive anybody else. You can only forgive yourself, because by doing that, you are forgiving them. But it starts with you.
Yeah.
And you started to do that because initially you were really angry about decisions that they'd made, things that they'd done, things that they'd said. And now you're far more at ease with it. You're not happy about it. You don't have to agree with it.
Yeah.
But you're at ease.
It's not mine.
That's it. That's exactly it. That's exactly. So how absolutely spot on is that past card? Because that is the past. It's not to say that you're not going to have a family, because you already do and you will have, but it's to say that that was a big factor in your past. Now, not so much. So now it's, and you've also got different families, haven't you?
Yes.
So you've got your blood lineage family that you're part of, but you've also got like Hear the Tree Fall, and then you've got other people that you're part of their families as well. And it shows you how many different families we have.
Yeah.
And not everybody in our blood lineage family is going to get on with those different, circles of ways of being. We go to different people for different things, which is exactly how it should be.
Yeah.
Is that fair enough to say?
No, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So the second card was, or is rather, travel. Your life purpose involves traveling. I love how he's got a laptop.
Not like that.
His wings are there, but he's got a laptop and he's in an airport. It's like, well, why don't you just use your wings?
Yeah.
I always find that a bit funny, that one. So on travel, because you were going to be traveling this weekend.
I was.
So, but it's this one's a present card, so it's pre-sent. So you are in that bit. But this is also to do with your life purpose. So we're looking at the bigger picture of things as well. So your life purpose involves traveling. You drew this card as a validation of what you already knew, that your life's work involves traveling. You may be called to be of service in faraway places, or it could be that a life-changing travel experience will give you breakthrough information about your divine purpose. Like a traveling minstrel, you bring blessings wherever you go. Does that ring a bell? This card, sorry, I can't help but laugh at this. I really can't. This card also speaks to movement in your life, with adventurous and life-enhancing changes occurring for you now and in the immediate future. By letting go of the old and stepping into these changes, you gain the sense of meaning and fulfillment that you've desired. The former stagnation is replaced with a passion for new projects and relationships. A third meaning of this card is that your life purpose involves technology, especially with respect to computers and telecommunication. This could be signal telecommuting, where you work from home via computer, or it could literally mean that your work involves computer programming, sales, and such like things. Now, there's an awful lot in that one, because what if you just started doing that's a technological thing?
The spooky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So even if I didn't know you, I would be sitting there straight away, because it's in the present, and saying, what have you picked up that's new? Have you started to use Zoom, or, is there a computer program that you really like, or is there something you learn about, or is there a technology that you picked up on, or anything like that, because that's what it's indicating, right? And that travel is that people forget that being on something like this, you and I are traveling between each other. We're journeying in cyberspace. Now, how this...
Sorry, can we pause for a second, please?
I'll come back.
Yes, you can. No, it's fine. Right, so we were talking about the travel and the technology side of things. Now, I know you have travelled in the past, but you and I had a conversation quite a while back, and I said, when I get to my older years, I wanted to I wanted to sort of leave everything in the hands of the younger people and go off and saunter the earth, and just take my time, just saunter along. And you jumped to the chance and you went, I'm with you straight away. And I went, yeah, but you can have your own caravan. I don't want you in my caravan.
Oh, that's a given.
I don't think you can stand my snoring, to be honest, but that's a different type of technology. It's still, the wheel is still a technology.
Yeah.
So it's all that comes into it, and in different ways. But this is where you are at the present moment, in the bigger and grander scheme of things. So we have to look at, okay, what are you doing now? And I know you use a lot of technologies in your work as well.
Yeah.
So I don't know whether anything new has come up out of that one. I doubt it very much.
No, there's always technologies fluctuate and change somewhat, but the principle's the same.
Yeah. So it's really sort of like looking at the travel, and it's the thing about exploring and going out and about and using the technology you've got. Now, the technology that you're using with the Rife machine is that, you know, you can go up to 1,000 miles away and still be using it. You know, I mean, that's a heck of a technology to use.
That's the known distance.
Yeah.
That's what's been confirmed.
Mm-hmm. And the thing is that you could go further afield and go, well, actually, I've found that if you go 1,500 miles away, it still works.
Yeah.
You know, technically, looking at how quantum works, it wouldn't matter where you were in the universe, it would still work. Because it's based on your sign of nature, your signature, your energetic signature, you know, and it follows that. You know, they call it DNA, but I've got a bit of a question over DNA anyway, so but we won't go into
so
that.
The Russians, a lot of information coming out of there.
Oh yeah,
good stuff.
Yeah. Interesting, really interesting stuff. So yeah, I don't necessarily see you sitting at airports. I think it's more a fact of like you would probably go by boat.
Boats are good.
Take that nice slow journey, so you take in everything as you're going.
Yeah, we're talking about heading back up to Norway as well, but that's going to be by boat with a van on board, and then from there on wheels. Yeah.
So there's a lot in that present card that's happening at the moment. All these things are shifting and changing as to how your intention is. Because remember, it comes from your intention, and then you make a small action towards it, and then the whole universe goes, yes, Fraser, you're right, and it moves everything into your path that you then, you know, is going to help you, and you will then go further. You go to the next stepping stone, and your next stepping stone, and you do what comes up in front of you, and then all of a sudden everything runs a lot smoother.
Yeah.
So, you know, you don't get delayed at airports, like, you know, don't fly with my husband, because we get that regularly because of how he is. Right? So, you know, and then I prove to him that it doesn't have to be that way, and he sits and goes, wow, and then he does it the next time again. It's like, oh, really? So the one in the future, believe it or not, this is actually unusual for you. I would not have picked this card out for you. And it's flowers. Now, it's working with flowers opens your heart and brings blessings to others through your life purpose. So bear with me.
Caroline, if you're watching this, remember the rose geranium?
Actually, yeah. Do you know, I hadn't thought about that one. Yeah. This card signifies your special connection to flowers whose fragrance, colour and beauty provide healing blessings. As you grow, admire, photograph and work with blossoms, so too does your connection with the divine blossom. Your affinity for flowers is just beginning, and spending time among them will help every part in your life bloom. You may literally work with flowers, for example, as a gardener, florist or flower essence healer. Wow. Right, okay.
That's weird, because that's future we're talking on just now.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
Years and years ago, I looked at being a florist.
Did
before
you?
I went into nursing. Yeah, that's strange.
So you would have had one brother as a hairdresser and another one as a florist.
Yeah.
That would have been cracking for your mum.
Lovely boys.
Right, okay. Or it may be that spending personal time with these lovely features of the natural world sparks your creative ideas about a new career path. So whether your relationship with flowers is destined to become a career or an avocation, spend time with them today. Walk through a flower shop and notice which colour bloom you're drawn to. This flower holds healing properties that you need right now. If possible, take it home and spend some time absorbing its colour and fragrance. Trust the flower's wisdom and power to help you upon your life purpose pathway. So for me, how it works with the travel and the technology and how everything else, you know, is going in it, either the flowers are going to be like a key point to helping you, you know, take those stepping stones, or they're going to be part of what you do, you know, because what you're doing at the moment is not what you're going to be doing in 10 years time.
Yeah.
That's a given that's going to change, right? And everybody is going through that one at the moment where they're sitting there going, oh God, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? It'll come to you. It'll like, just do the next thing that's in front of you and it will come to you.
Yeah.
And you can make plans, that's fine, but always be prepared to alter those plans and change them and transform them into the next bit, because people sit there and say, you know, like, oh, I want a really big house. And then they get the big house and go, oh, I want a smaller house. You know, what is it about the house that they really wanted? Did they want to feel safe and secure? Did they want to feel cozy? Did they want to feel at home? There's loads of people who have got houses who don't feel at home.
No, absolutely. I would say that number's far beyond what you would imagine. you know.
Yeah, and it's that
A lot to do with status, and you know, you get the new job, you get the more money, you want the big house. Why? I don't.
Yeah, but it's, I mean, some people want a big house for a purpose, you know, and it fulfills their purpose that they're going to do, and that's
Which is fine.
Yeah, this is it. With the hoo-ha that's going on at the moment, you're going to find that people are going to be moving, you know, and they're going to be moving to different places, and they don't want to be in cities anymore, you know. They don't want to be on top of one another, and there's going to be more than enough space, you know, for people to move into and then create their own space, you know. It's really funny because where you were going to go to was near an island called Arran, right? And on Arran, I know that they have they actually grow orchids there, and what they do is they infuse water with orchid essence.
Yeah.
Have them in a dark room, and they put the bloom over the top of a bowl of water, and the orchid infuses the water. It programs the water, basically.
Yeah, that's funny because we're talking about the imprinting.
Yeah,
a private conversation between us as well,
and that's us back to technology again.
Yeah, but the,
you know,
the Bach's flower remedies frequencies are there to imprint as well into the water.
So, are they? Oh, fantastic!
Yes.
That's really interesting. That's really good. But yeah, there's definitely a whole bit in that. But if you can look at the sort of really natural part of it, of going out and identifying those flowers. I mean, not really the time of year in Scotland to go and look for flowers.
Certainly not today.
Because they're all kind of dying off a little bit, but you'll still find them. And it reverts back to your first card, which was clover, and the upside down version looked like mistletoe.
Yeah.
So how much is in that? See what I mean about oracle cards? They give you far, far more than just a tarot deck will do. You know, a tarot deck can actually do the same thing, but most readers on tarot decks will look back into your past more than they will do into your future. Right. So for me, as far as I'm concerned with how I'm seeing this, is that you're stepping, you've had all these years of let's put it really succinctly, crap, you know, and now you're actually stepping into, there's been good bits, don't get me wrong, but you're stepping
not all been doom and gloom.
No, it hasn't. No.
A lot of it has.
But now you're stepping into something that's going to be far brighter and far lighter, far more airier, far more moving that energy and not letting it stagnate all the time. So, which is going to do you a lot of good, an awful lot of good. And coming back to the family card, you know, I've already read for you in the sense of not using cards. I know that you and your brother have got a long-standing history between each other through many past lives. And that's going to bring air into that and move that around, which is going to be interesting to see how the two of you react to it. Yeah. Because you're the one that's inviting that in now. You know, it doesn't necessarily have to come from him. It's you're the one that's inviting it in. And yeah, I mean, it's now just a case of like, how are you going to choose to react? Because you can always choose which way you're going to react to something. Yeah. And see where it takes you. But the flowers may well help you. So whenever you sit there, I mean, I use Equisalud.
From the Spanish stuff,
yeah, and I find that really helpful. So I use predominantly learning, sense of life, and protection. And it's protection that I'm on at the moment, and my applied kinesiologist keeps on going, no, you need to use it far more often. And it's like, oh, okay then, but you do forget, you know. I have it on the shelf so that I can see it, and when I see it I go, oh yeah, I need to take it, you know. But saying about the Bass rescue or the Bass remedies, you know, we've got rescue remedy in the house all the time. Yeah. And if we have any sort of incident, we take it straight away, you know, and it's amazing how what I call it is recalibrating your molecular level, you know, so it recalibrates your energetic level, and that then helps in every other factor, you know. Yeah. So which is good. So if you're going down that pathway to see what's happening, because I know you've had an interest in different things that come from the flower-based, you know, parts of nature, if you like. Yeah. And you've had some really good outcomes with them as well. Yeah. You know, so it's one of those, if that's for me as well, that's like a validation that what you have already been doing, you're on that right path, you know. So does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, okay.
Definitely.
So any other questions you want to have about those three cards?
No, I think that's quite enough just now, I think.
You get about sort of like, you know, sort of like a day or two ahead from now, and then you go, oh, I should ask such and such a thing, and you know you can always get in touch. Yeah, you can always get in touch because everybody has the ability to go back and look at them again. Even though I'm not going to remember your cards, you will, but I won't, because I don't need to, you know. And then when you say, well, how does that figure with this? And then once it's like a key in a lock for me. And I go, okay, and I look back and I go, right, and that's when I can link it all together again, you know, and say, well, this is how this has come about. You know, so don't ever feel that you can't come back and ask me a question. I've got people who ask me questions about cards that I read them 15 years ago.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I haven't got a clue what I drew for them. You know, what they actually picked out in the cards. They do. They remember it. You know, and I go, okay, that's fine. I don't need to know.
Yeah.
Because straight away I'm getting that stuff coming through. And that's what you were really into, was the intuitive side of it.
Yeah.
And it literally is that split nanosecond when you get something through and your ego hasn't had the chance to override it, because your ego comes in like that, you know, but when you do it really quickly, you can then grasp it and you practice with it, it becomes bigger and bigger. So that ego doesn't come in near as quick. So it gives you a chance to bring it into where you are and say, right, okay, and then start looking at it and going, well, how does that fit together then? And that's the thing about asking ourselves good questions. You know, when we ask the good questions, we get the good answers.
Yeah.
And the only thing about that is when you first start, you know, don't expect the answer straight away.
Yeah.
It can take a while for it to come, but the more you practice with it, the quicker it will come, because you then open to that, you know. And as the saying goes in my family, there's far more between heaven and earth than we will ever know. Yeah. So and reading oracle cards is working in the unseen world, because that's what you're doing. Now, I often get asked the question of, if I hadn't have read those cards, would that person have done that thing? Well, I've done it both ways, where I have read the cards and where I haven't read the cards, and I've still done a draw for them without them, you know, really being aware of it. And it's still come absolutely spot on. Yeah. You know, unless they have made a complete U-turn and decision. You know, and that was in the cards as well, because I always sit there and go, look, if you decide not to go down that path, that's fine, that's your choice. And, you know, the outcome will be different then, you know, but there will still be certain things that will come in your path, you know, because you've designed it, you've decided how you're going to have those things and when they're going to come into your life. So, you know, if somebody said, oh, it's like playing a game of chess, and I said, only if it's 10-dimensional chess. Because that's how it all works, you know, and when you're going to follow that, there's no point in looking at it as a static sort of board and, you know, whatever. Even if you did it as 3-dimensional, you're still looking at how everything flows and moves and melts and then converges, diverges, you know, and all that sort of thing. So it is that entanglement, and that's where entanglement really explains it a lot better. So are you going to work on your intuition then?
Absolutely, yes.
Right. Well, I'll set you a little challenge then. You can do a reading for me. Right. Okay. And then once you've done the reading, you can come on and we'll record that one, and you can tell people what you can see in me. Okay. All right. Done. In the interest of truth and trust. Yes. Okay, so is that all right for you then?
That's brilliant. Brilliant.
So guys, if anybody's been watching this and you've been listening along, always make it your own practice. Don't go off what somebody else says, even what I'm saying, you know, make it absolutely your own. If you don't feel comfortable doing it that way or this way, you know, do it an entirely different way and see what comes up with it. That's the whole point. Is the only people that we can experiment on is ourselves, and that's exactly who we should experiment on, you know. And it's not going to do any harm, you know. It's as long as you don't go around saying, I've seen this in you and you're going to do such and such a thing. Yeah, it's like I always remember we had I can't remember where they come from, but it was some sort of Christian group that was at school, and it was actually quite interesting because this young lad was there. And he said, there I was lying in my bed. He says, you know, wondering why my life wasn't going the way I planned it to. And He says, and he put his hands up like this, because he says, there I'm lying in my bed. And he put his hands up. He says, and the ceiling didn't open up and God didn't come through. It's just like, and I thought that's kind of what it is. You know, we get to that breakdown point and we want somebody else to come and save us, but actually we're our own salvation every time, you know. So how we look at oracle cards is it is a guide. It's literally there to say, look, this is the best way for you to go, and you know how you go forward. And that's where it differs from tarot. Tarot will give you an end point. I always think of oracle cards as being like a labyrinth. You will always come back out of it, whereas tarot cards can sometimes be like a maze, so you can go down a dead end. Yeah. You know, so that's why I prefer oracle cards to tarot cards. But it depends how you read them. You know, it really does. So to everybody who's been listening and watching, thank you very much. And remember, click on the subscribe and you'll be kept up to date with what Heal the Tree Fall gets up to. We haven't really sort of made ourselves very, very well known, have we, Fraser? No. We've been working in the background. We have a massive library that we've accumulated, a lot of hidden knowledge and things like that. Working in the unseen world and people learning how to practice for themselves. So it's really interesting at the moment. And like I said, thank you very much for asking the question, Fraser.
Thank you for your time again.
Because no, it's my absolute pleasure. But that's the key thing, is if we don't ask the question, shy Bam gets now.
Yes. Good old Scottish phrase there.
Isn't it just, well, nothing ventured, nothing gained. It's the similar sort of thing, isn't it? So thanks very much, guys, and we will see you next time.
Thank you.